Spring Breakfast has been a long tradition at Hammer, but unfortunately we missed the last two of them, which actually means it's been 3 years since we've been together in this room for our Spring Breakfast. And the good news is not one of you has aged a day. No, it is great to be together. It feels still a little unusual, does it not, to be in a room full of people. But what a joy to be able to see people face to face, to be able to greet one another, and to be together, which is so important for the work that we do. A lot of things have happened in the last 3 years. We'll talk a bit about them as we go. But most notably, as you all know, the Hammer family has gotten bigger as we've come together with Northeast residents. And there are a number of you here who are from Northeast residents, and we're grateful for that. The Northeast residents folks, put your hands up. I'm not going to make you stand up, but put your hands up. There you are. Welcome. We're so glad you're part of the Hammer family. We're so glad you could figure out how to get from the East Metro to the West Metro. I know that's a bit challenging at times, but Saturday morning makes it a little bit easier. But I want to welcome all of you, family members, the people we support, staff, of course, volunteers, community partner winners, donors, others who are together with us in this adventure that we call Hammer. Like I said, the first time we've been able to gather since 2019. And we've learned a lot, and I'm going to talk later in the program a bit about what we've learned and about what we still need to learn as the world upended around us and within us. But the one thing we've learned on a whole bunch of different levels, and you see it all over the place now at Hammer and NER, and that is we really truly believe that we are better together. That's really become our mantra in a lot of ways and become really important to us. And we mean that on a whole series of levels, which you're going to hear more and more about in our little program this morning about how we are better together. But before we do that, let's take a look at some of the good things that have come our way in the last year. We have a lot of special guests here today, but we have two very special guests here that I'd like to invite to come join me on the stage here for the next part of our program. Virgin Tunsing and Justin Evilsizer, I think you're both here. I've seen you both. Come on up. Virginia has been part of the NER family since 1987, and she lives at our County Road F home. And Justin has been a part of the Hammer family since he moved into the Plymouth Colony Apartments in 2020. So come on up here. You want to stand on this side? You want to stand on this side? Look at this.
Oh, no, I'm not gonna.
We're doing all right.
Help me with that.
Oh, this one works too. Oh, this one works better. I get to be louder. So, Virginie, I want to introduce you a little bit to the folks here. Would that be all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I hear that you like to be active, that you like to be out and about. Did you enjoy shopping?
Mm-hmm.
Getting your nails done?
Yeah.
And talking with your family and friends, just kind of socializing?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. I also hear you have some great hobbies. What are some of your hobbies?
Painting.
Painting?
Yep.
What kind of painting? Like watercolors or oils?
Watercolor.
Watercolors. What are your favorite kind of things to paint? Scenes or flowers or what?
Flowers.
Flowers. All right. You love painting flowers. I'd love to see some of your paintings someday. Would that be all right?
Yeah.
Well, that's great. I hear you also like to try new recipes.
Yeah, I do.
You do. Are you a good cook?
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing to cook? Do you think?
Bacon.
Bacon. All right. I'm coming to your house.
Yeah.
We sometimes call this the Bacon Fest here. We tell the hotel lots of bacon. Wonderful. Well, we're glad to have you here this morning. And should we meet Justin a little bit?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's good. So, Justin, I hear you have something in common with Virginia, right? You like to be very busy?
Oh, yes.
All right. And what are some of the things that you like to do?
Watch TV, play video games.
Video games, huh?
Yes.
Are you good at them?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I won't be helping you with that because my thumbs don't work.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I also hear you have 2 jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Where are they?
Lunch and Byways and Calvos.
Culver's and Lunds and Byerly's.
Yes.
Whoa, that's amazing. You like to stay very busy. And I was at your place not too long ago, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you showed me hanging on your wall a whole bunch of medals, right?
Oh, yes.
Where are they from?
From Special Olympics.
Special Olympics?
Minnesota Special Hockey.
Oh, all sorts of stuff. You won a lot of medals.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how many? Dozens.
No.
I saw them. Dozens and dozens of medals. And how do you like living in an apartment? It's okay?
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah. It's a place to live, right? Yeah, it's a place to live. Whatever. I get it. But I do know, at least I witnessed it, that you keep your apartment very clean.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you cleaned it up because you knew I was coming. Well, maybe. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Well, thanks, Justin and Virginie. I'm really glad you're with us today. Because what the 3 of us are going to do in a special way is really thank a lot of wonderful people who care a great deal about you and all the other people who live at our homes and apartments. And so now, as our special guests here this morning, I'd like to invite you to help me present some awards. Would that be all right?
Yes.
That'd be okay?
Yeah.
All right. You've heard me say many times that what we do, we never do alone. That everything we do in partnership, and that is really true. Community partners, volunteers, donors, families, friends, it all makes all the difference. It makes possible what we do. We talk a lot about high quality services, and people say, what do you mean? And I say, it's because we build networks around people. It's not just about, as important as it is, staff and the people we support. It's staff and the entire network of family and friends and community partners that makes all the difference in what we do. A number of years ago, we developed a Community Partner Award to honor people and organizations who are making a significant contribution to their community through their time, their actions, their talents, and their dedication by volunteering and or donating to Hammer residences. Since 1993, when we started this award, we have recognized 70 people and organizations who have served as role models of compassion and service, as well as helping us to fulfill our mission. So today I'd like to invite Kathy Toma, our Director of Volunteers, to join me. Kathy?
Good morning. It's so good to see everyone in person again.
Oh, wait a minute.
Is it not on? I can talk louder. I can project.
We know.
It's true. Can everyone hear me? Yes, perfect. So again, so great to see everyone in person. And as John said, every year we love to celebrate our community partner awards. And this year we're pleased to recognize 3 people. Our first Community Partner Award recipient is Lacey Anderson, and I would like to invite her to the stage. And she is here with her one-on-one person that she supports, which is Daniel. And we're going to see if Daniel wants to come up on stage. And the program manager at Emory is Brittany Severson, and she is going to come on stage as well. So I get the privilege of telling you a little bit about Lacey. Lacey is a senior at Wayzata High School, and she began volunteering with Hammer in 2020, right when COVID hit. She reached out, wanted to be a one-on-one volunteer, and at that point in time we couldn't accommodate that. But that didn't stop her, because she helped with car karaoke, holiday cookies, the haunted house. She found a way to help out. And then in 2021, Brittany reached out and said, you know, Daniel loves music. He loves choir music, church music. Do you think you could find a volunteer that could do that with him? And I remember when I spoke with Lacey when she first reached out to volunteer that she actually did sing and play many musical instruments and did sing in a choir. So she said, I would love to do that. And that's when their friendship began in August 2021, and it has been going well ever since. Daniel loves spending time with Lacey. They became fast friends with their shared love for music. And Daniel often listens to children's Christian music and choir music. And since Lacey has a background in it, that worked out perfectly. Those songs formed a special bond between them. And I understand that with the different instruments Lacey plays that you and Daniel often jam together. Daniel also loves everything to do with Christmas, and so Lacey decided that she was going to host just the house Christmas party. And Daniel was able to decorate the Christmas tree with Lacey, decorate the house, and they had a special party at the house with everyone in it. The other thing I need to say is, while she is a senior, she will be graduating in June and heading off to Creighton University in the fall to study accounting. So we just want to take this moment to thank you for everything you've done, not just for Daniel, which is very special, but also for the rest of Hammer. So thank you very much. Yes. You want to say something?
I'm a little taller than Kathy. Hi everyone, my name is Lacey Anderson. I am a senior at Wayzata High School this year. Like Kathy said, I've been partnered with Daniel since August of last year. When the original agreement was reached for me to be partnered with Daniel, the idea was that I would be bringing joy to him probably every other week. I'd go to Emory and play some music and we'd hang out, and that has definitely been the case. I still go about every other week, and we get to hang out, and I've gotten to know him over these last months. But I've also achieved a lot of joy through him. I think we've become great friends, and I am really, really thankful for this opportunity, and I am really thankful to Hammer as well. I think this is phenomenal, and I could not be more grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Lacey. Our second award recipient is Vicki Stewart. I'm going to ask her to come up on stage. Linda, would you like to join us? Right, come on up. And while they're coming on stage, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Vicki. So Vicki has volunteered with us since 2013 as a special events volunteer, Hammer travel volunteer, and now a one-on-one volunteer. She's accrued over 432 service hours. Vicki is one of those special volunteers that does everything. She's fully committed and really a joy to work with as a volunteer. As a special volunteer, she assisted at Reach for Ralph 3 years in a row, the Family Day Picnic, the Holiday Pop-Up Shop, J.J. Hill Days. When we needed help with meals in the home, especially during COVID, she would make a meal and drop it off at the house and deliver it that way, and so much more. When she was doing the Hammer travel, she got to go to the Grand Canyon, she got to go to the Dude Ranch and help out, and of course the twins' road trip to Chicago. But perhaps most importantly, she is a one-on-one volunteer to Linda at Royal Oaks. Linda wanted to learn how to cook some meals and then share those meals with friends. And the staff reached out and asked, do you have someone who would do that? And Vicki and I were just having this conversation, and I knew she liked to cook, and I'm like, hey, you do all these other things. How about being a one-on-one volunteer too? And she said, she thought about it, because she really thought about it. She said, I think I would like to try that. And so Vicki and Linda would decide on a recipe. They'd get the groceries and they would meet at Linda's apartment and cook a meal. And they've cooked things like tater tot hot dish, Valentine cupcakes, just to name a few things. But when COVID hit, they had to get a little creative. And so they decided they were going to continue cooking. And they would call each other and use Zoom, and each would get the recipe that was decided on at each of the houses, and they would cook together at the same time until the meal was completed. And that way Linda got to continue learning to cook and share her skills with her friends. But more than that, I've talked to Vicki, and I think this relationship is more than just cooking. They have really become good friends and talk several times during the week, quite frequently. And in fact, Vicki was invited to Linda and Jason's wedding ceremony that happened recently. So I think even Linda would agree that they are really good friends. On behalf of Hammer, and we want to thank you so much for everything you do for Linda and Hammer. You do it all, and we're amazed and grateful. So thank you, Vicki. And if you'd like to say a few words. Yeah, Vicki talk. Linda, you want to say something, Linda? Come on up. You can tell us about that too.
Vicki is the greatest person in the world. She has done so much for me. My life has changed without her. She's been so good to all of me. She takes care of me. When holidays are coming up, she knows what I want. I love to bake, I love to cook, and I have a new husband in my life, and she's been there to support that. So I really, congratulations on Vicki. She's done a lot of work.
Very sweet.
Well, I really don't think I can follow that. The joy is all mine. I tell Linda, I get more, I think, out of this relationship than she does. It has been a joy to really get to know you, to see how you've developed in your cooking, to share the joy when Jason came in your life. So the one thing I think that I would say to all of you, you probably do a lot of volunteering because you're here, but if you don't, it is the greatest joy. I always feel I'm the best version of myself when I volunteer. So I would encourage you, if it's once a month, once a quarter, call Kathy, She loves to find opportunities for people. Thank you so much for this honor. I'm very grateful. Come on over. Let's go.
Thank you so much, Vicki, and thank you, Linda. That was wonderful. Our last Community Partner Award recipient, last but not least, is Kim Hoffman, and I'd like to invite Kim up to the stage as well. So Kim is also an amazing volunteer, and she has been with Hammer since 2013 and has accrued over 330 volunteer hours with us. So she doesn't volunteer just by herself. She volunteers with her dog, Toby. He's a good puppers. And now I was thinking we really need an award for him too. So Kim, Toby's a canine companion. So we say pet therapy in that it's very therapeutic for the people we support, but the dog doesn't have to be a registered therapy dog. It just has to go through obedience training and just be, as I said, a good puppers. She has been with Toby visiting Lakeside for nearly 10 years. The individuals there look forward to their regular visits. And it started when one of the staff members asked for a companion for Julia at Lakeside because she wanted to practice her reading and thought she'd feel better and more comfortable reading to a dog. And so Kim agreed to go. But then, of course, and that helped Julia gain confidence with her reading abilities. And Kim says they enjoy going on short walks and discovered a little free library nearby. That's cool. And Julie likes to take a book and leave a book. But others at the house enjoy spending time with Kim and Toby too. They go on walks or just hang out at the house. And then Jake, one of the men that moved there, right before he moved to Lakeside, lost his dog. And so the staff asked, would it be okay if he could meet Toby? And in fact does, likes to comb him. And so now it's become a whole house love affair with Toby and Kim. So the other thing that happens is, as you know, with dogs, if you get to comb them, you get to be around them, you get to walk them, especially a good dog. It just gives you an overall sense of well-being. And Diane Berg, the program manager there, just adores you and is so grateful for everything you have done over those past 10 years. So with that, I want to say thank you, Kim. Thank you, Toby, for everything you do for all the individuals at Lakeside and Hammer. We so appreciate you. Thank you. And if you want to say a few words.
Well, thank you. I echo the other award winners. It is truly a joy to volunteer at Hammer. The support I get from Lakeside is phenomenal. Whatever time I can volunteer, if I have to change when I was working. Now I'm retired, so I can come every week. You know, Toby doesn't need an award. He has his own box of milk bones there at Lakeside, you know. And, you know, it kind of goes whoever wants to. Sometimes it's not even Jake or Julia who give him a treat. It's sometimes Megan or Lucas who gets the chance to give Toby his treat after his visit there. So everybody gets involved, and it's just been a joy. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thanks for all that you do for us and the close to 500 volunteers that we have at Hammer. We're very grateful for that. And congratulations to Lacey, Vicki, and Kim. We appreciate all the joy and kindness you bring into the lives of the people that we support. And Justin and Virgine, thank you for being here with me and thanking our Community Partner Awards. We're going to ask you to help on something else a little bit later, but in the meantime, you can go back to your table if you wish, all right? Thanks again. Some of you may recognize Justin. His parents, Brian and Corrine, were highlighted in this year's Spring Appeal. And so we thank them for sharing Justin's Hammer story and the wonderful things he is doing. As an organization, as I mentioned, we are so blessed to have so many volunteers who share so much of themselves, not just talents and skills, but of their very self. And the time and the love that they give to the individuals we serve is really life-changing. We couldn't do this work without you. And so if you're a volunteer at Hammer or NER in any way, shape, or form, I'd invite you to please stand so that we can recognize you. We recently celebrated Volunteer Appreciation Week, and we shared with you a few stories of volunteers on our blog and on other social media. And here's a glimpse of these stories. I'd like to invite Sue Walker and Lynn Curran to come on up and join me here as we move to the next phase of our program. I was thinking this morning driving in about the program and about who is going to be with me. Sue has been at Hammer for over 40 years, and Lynn has been at NER for over 25 years. So, right? 35, excuse me, I misspoke. So just a mere 75 years of service, closer to 80 between them. Pretty amazing.
John had to point that out, right? How old we are. The other day we were talking about having been at our organizations quite a long time, and I said out loud, I think I'm now the oldest employee at Hammer. Maybe one person beats me out. That's not necessarily a badge, right? Well, good morning. I too am very happy to see everybody in person. It's a lot of fun to get together again. So hopefully that continues. Many of the individuals we serve at Hammer have been at Hammer for the better part of their lives. And we have a number of individuals we want to recognize today on a video. 19 people who have been at Hammer for 40 years or more. Hammer really appreciates the fact that those individuals wanted to live at Hammer the better part of their lives. And we are very thankful that their families, their guardians, the people who support them have entrusted those individuals to Hammer.
Good morning. Can you hear me? And coincidentally, there are 19 individuals who have enjoyed life to its fullest, supported by NER for over 25 years. It has been an honor and a privilege to be able to provide them with a full life, whether in the community or at their NER home. We welcome all of our Hammer and NER families today, whether your loved one has been with us for 1 year or 40 years. I invite all of our families, including their loved ones, to please stand. Hi. Thanks for coming. Thank you all for being a part of our Hammer and NER family.
Good morning. I am Mary Gaish, and I'm the Director of Advocacy and Community Relations for Hammer and Northeast Residences. And as everyone else has said this morning, I'm just delighted to be here with you again today. This has always been one of my favorite Hammer events, and I just love seeing all the folks that have been such a big part of my life for so many years at Hammer. So I'm here today to talk about advocacy and why we need your partnership in this work, now more than ever before. I'll give you a brief update on what is happening right now at the Capitol and on the national stage, and then I'm going to share with you some easy ways that you can help. Things are changing so rapidly, actually, at the Capitol that I wrote this script a few days ago, and I already have a few updates for you that I'll get to in just a minute. But first, I want to talk about why this work is so essential. Minnesota is the only state in the union where the legislature sets the rates that we pay our direct support professionals. So it's critical that we have strong relationships with our legislators in order to begin to build a care infrastructure that works for all of us. We know that investing in wages for our DSPs and for our managers means better lives for everyone living with disabilities and their families. So what's going on right now at the state capitol? We have a historic surplus. I think most of you know that. We don't have a whole lot of consensus about how to spend it. Some folks want to invest in things like our care infrastructure. Others want to cut taxes, and some want to wait until after the elections this fall to kind of decide what to do. We have a few weeks left in this legislative session. The Minnesota Senate right now has a lot of support for disability services in their omnibus bill. The House has surprisingly little. Our next step is that the Senate Health and Human Services omnibus bill and the House Health and Human Services omnibus bill are at the conference committees, and the hearings are going to start on Monday. In order to have some kind of input in this, we kind of need action from everyone in this room. And what I did was I set on the table, it's not very fancy because we just kind of cranked it out last night, a note that you can kind of pass around. And what I'm inviting you to do is that if you or any of your loved ones or friends who are willing to help out live in the districts of the folks who are on the conference committee, and I put that list on the table, to reach out to me by email, and I'll get you a little quick form email that you can send out to let them know how critical it is that the final omnibus bill represents our need to invest in our workforce. So that's kind of the big hot off the press update for our Minnesota legislature. On the national stage, we really start out in an exciting way. President Biden had initially proposed a $3 trillion investment in disability services. That got whittled down to $1.5 trillion in the proposed Build Back Better budget reconciliation bill. By the time I learned how to say that well, that was already dead, because Joe Manchin would not support it, the senator from West Virginia. They're still in negotiations right now to push something through. And our National Trade Association believes that home and community-based services could play a big part in that role. And we could still get an investment in our national infrastructure that could make a historic difference in terms of our workforce. We're still lifting up our voices in advocacy for inclusion in this bill. So how you can help. And I know, it's hard for me actually to ask anyone in this room to do anything more than they've already done for the lives of folks who live with disabilities. I know our families have been advocates for a lifetime. Our staff advocate for the folks we support every day. And of course, our self-advocates have been doing this work their entire lives. But we need your voices for this work to make things better. And we really need your partnership. So what I did was I prepared a list of some easy things that you can do to help out without a big investment in time and energy. I have a little booth right outside the door back here, and on it are some forms that you can pick up that even have QR codes that you can scan to take some action on some of these things. We also have a sign-up sheet on the tables in front of you. And on that sign-up sheet, you can do our first easiest step, which is sign up for our action alerts. It's an easy system where you can just enter your address and it sends an automated email to your legislators. And these things really pack a powerful punch. You don't even need to personalize them. Our trade association, ARMS, sent out an action alert for one issue at like 8:30 p.m. on a Thursday night, and by 8:30 a.m. the next morning they had 1,000 responses statewide, and that is actually why there's still some hope to come to some agreement on this Health and Human Services Omnibus bill. The second thing we can do, and I guess I'm not really looking at the slides to see if we're timing it, but we can find out who your legislators are and follow them on social media. If you don't know, there's like I said, a QR code on that form that's on that booth, and you can just scan it into your address and it'll just tell you who your legislators are. Pretty easy. If you follow them on social media and you see that maybe they're hosting a town hall or a community forum, let me know. And I put my address on the flyer, and it's pretty easy to remember. It's maryg@hammer.org. Let me know, and I can help make sure that there's folks at those events that will represent our services. And number three, a really fun opportunity for self-advocates in the room is that Hammer is beginning a new partnership with Advocating Change Together. And this is a wonderful nonprofit that offers training and support for self-advocates. Some of you, I think, in the room have attended their fun events over Zoom, but they also offer a self-advocacy academy for folks who want to learn more. And if you or your loved one is interested, please reach out to me for more information. And again, there's some flyers on the table. Number four, easy thing, is to help host a visit with your legislator or your loved one's legislator. If you're open to connecting with them, reach out to me and I'll organize all the details and make it easy. And then number five, most importantly this fall, we need to vote. Everyone is up for election in the state of Minnesota this year, and much of Congress is up for election as well. I'm happy to help you get registered and figure out where you need to vote, and I'll be sharing a lot of information about that this summer and fall, so just stay tuned. So check out my booth in the back with some of those flyers, sign up for our action alerts, and I always welcome you to reach out to me with questions or for a cup of coffee. I love the partnership, and I'm here to make this work as easy and fun for you as possible. So thank you all for everything you do.
Thank you, Mary. It really is a joy to work with Mary. There's really very few people in our field who have this sort of passion that Mary has for the people that we support, and understands how systems impact individuals. And that's kind of the connection in advocacy, is that a lot of times people who live with a disability, the system freezes them in place. And advocacy helps to break that. And Mary gets that. She lives that and breathes that, sometimes sweats it and bleeds it, but over a long career, very few people have been as passionate consistently as Mary has been about the people we support. So thank you, Mary. You know, a lot of you, as you were coming in today and in other ways that we maybe have met or emailed or whatever have asked me one question, and that is, how's it going, right? It's a natural question, given all that has happened in the last couple of years. And it's hard to answer in one sentence. But the one thing I do know is we have remarkable people, remarkable staff. We talk a lot about our volunteers and our families, and all that's important. But it is the staff who are there every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, no holidays, who are always there and always present. And I don't have to tell you that everything got upended a couple years ago. And we couldn't have gotten through what we have gotten through. We couldn't have come to this day without the absolute dedication, creativity, and hard work of our staff. It's been amazing. It's very humbling to me. But all the ways that they protected, cared for the individuals we serve, not just at a minimal level, but then got creative into trying to create as best as best a life as is possible in the middle of a pandemic. If someone had told me 5 years ago that's what we would be doing, trying to support people with disabilities in the middle of a worldwide pandemic, I would have said, I wonder if they're hiring at Super America. But I didn't need to say that because of our staff. Really just incredible. And still when I see staff, there's still smiles, there's still energy, and there's still an incredible amount of dedication for what we are doing. And this is across both of our organizations, Hammer and NER. As we come together, our staff are so very similar in their passion and in their drive for this work. You may not know this, but nobody gets into this field to get rich. They do it because of heart and because of love, and it's really remarkable. So because our staff works so hard, there's not a ton here today, but there's a few. And so any staff who are here today in any capacity at Hammer or NER, if you would stand, please. I'm really honored to work with such a great group of people. Thank you. Now invite Sue to come back up. Oh, there you are. Why can't I remember where you sit?
Yeah, they put me on the program a couple of times. I said that just gives me many times to trip. I, too, want to just piggyback on what John has said about the staff. I can get teary-eyed about it. Everybody at Hammer plays a part in this operation. It takes every single person, from someone in the finance department, development, volunteers, the maintenance teams. It's just phenomenal, just phenomenal. So I just want to reiterate what John said, that it takes everybody to make the whole thing work. Very, very, very thankful to work with such wonderful people. I want to just point out the things that we do for our DSPs, and I too want to say that it's been just a phenomenal couple of years. Always thought that people with boots on the ground are just very special people, but that's certainly been true over the last 2 years. And they have come up with so many ways to keep people busy, keep people engaged, support each other through daytime activities, when each other doesn't feel good, to pick up the slack and do extra chores to get things done. It's really been phenomenal. What we have done at Hammer over the years is have a DSP of the Month award, and kind of fell off for a while. We had a lot of other things to pay attention to over the last 2 years. But we've just started celebrating a caregiver award. And for the last couple of months, the directors, program directors at both organizations have identified employees who have kind of gone above and beyond, or someone who's really hung in there through all of this. And so these are the individuals over March and April that have been recognized at both Hammer and NER. They are DSPs, assistant program managers. On the Hammer side, we call them APMs, and on the NER side, we call them leads. But APMs and leads have the same job responsibilities, basically. So we're going to continue this tradition of recognizing our direct care staff. And what they get is a $25 gift card to Cub, Holiday, Target, or Starbucks. So just a very small sense of appreciation gift that we can give them. We also have a very robust, as John would say, employee recognition program at Hammer and NER, and our managers and directors can, and all employees can recognize each other by gifts that are available through our HR departments to recognize employees for things that they do. So it's another way that we can acknowledge all the hard work that all of our employees do. We really appreciate each and every person that works at Hammer and NER.
The other day I had the opportunity to stop at one of our homes. Something that was always one of my favorite things to do that got derailed, like so many other things, by COVID. But we're starting to come back with all of that, and I was able to stop by one of our homes, and one of the people we support who lives in that home I've known for pretty much the whole 10 years I've been at Hammer. And he's always been super friendly to me. And when I came into the house and he was standing in his bedroom, and as I walked up to the bedroom, he looked at me and he said, "Hi, John. It's been a while." And I said, "Yeah, it has been a while." And there was a certain sadness in that exchange, that we hadn't been able to be close face-to-face with each other, to see each other really much at all in the last couple of years. But we chatted for a few minutes, and he showed me some things in his room and told me a little bit about what's happening in his life right now, and how maybe things are just starting just a little bit, hopefully, to kind of get back to the way they were before, at least a little bit, please. We didn't talk for real long, a few minutes, but when we were done, he reached out and he gave me a hug, and he said, "Thanks for coming." That's why I do this work. It's those moments that have been unfortunately really disrupted in the last couple of years. It's been incredibly hard. I don't have to tell you that, right? It's been incredibly hard, this pandemic that seemed to plunge out of nowhere. It didn't plunge out of nowhere, but it feels that way, and consumed us and scared us in so many ways. It's almost thankfully hard to remember how those first few months were. Literally hours every day on Teams with nurses and Sue and Kim in HR and all of us trying to figure out what the blazes is going on. And the health department sending us directives, and then changing their mind 3 hours later. And the Department of Health and Human Services, or of Human Services in Minnesota, reminding us of all sorts of things that they usually remind us of, and we would say, "Are you kidding? There's a pandemic. We'll get to the paperwork later. No, you can't come visit to approve our license for another year. We've been doing this for 100 years. We'll be okay." But that was our life, right? But that was easy compared to the people in the houses and apartments, right? Who are trying to figure out, how do we do this? How do we take care of our own families and take care of the people we support? And oh, by the way, the volunteers can't come in and the other staff can't come in anymore. And so you're kind of on your own, right? In this little island within the house or the apartment to sort of figure this out. We spent an enormous amount of time on Teams and Zoom talking to each other and trying to figure this out. It was upsetting and disorienting. And every day we were learning new terms, right? Who before the pandemic hit knew what in the heck PPE was? And who knew that all of those masks that look the same are actually different? You mean we can't wear this one because it doesn't meet this? It just went on and on. I found myself one morning stopping at Costco as early as I could because we were having a hard time getting some things. And I walked out with gallon jugs of hand sanitizer. And I saw people fighting over toilet paper. It was remarkable. And in the last 2 years, I have taken my temperature more often than my entire life before that. And yet, in many ways, with all of that kind of craziness that was happening around and within us, really, at a different level, nothing changed. Because we do what we do. And we have for 100 years at Hammer, and we have for 50 years at NER. We just do what we do. And we faced challenges before. You can argue the pandemic's the worst or not the worst or the fifth worst. It doesn't matter. We faced enormous challenges in this work. And what we've learned, sometimes the hard way, at both Hammer and NER, is when we stay focused on the people, the rest of it only impacts. It doesn't overwhelm. And that's important. Yes, it impacts, but it never overwhelms. Because no matter what is happening around or within us, we stay focused on the people we support. We stay focused on those relationships because that's what's important. At both of our organizations, we don't talk a lot about programs and all of that kind of stuff, except for when we have to. We talk about relationships. That's when our eyes light up. We talk about the people we support, not as something that needs to be documented, but as someone who needs to be loved and supported. So we saw a lot of things happen in the last couple of years. We saw birthday parties get moved to the front yard. And when it got too cold, then we saw birthday parties become drive-by. We saw camping go from going to camp to going in the backyard. We found Thanksgiving change from getting together with others at a big meal to meals being delivered in a box to each residence and them figuring it out together. We went from trick-or-treating in the offices or in the neighborhood to trick-or-treating outside out of the trunks of cars. We did a lot of things differently, but at the core, we just did what we do. It's just what we do. We support people. We walk with them. We love them. And we try to provide whatever assistance we can. It was about 6 months into this kind of craziness, and we were starting to breathe a little sigh of relief. We had figured out what to do when someone got COVID in a house and how to reduce the risk of that getting transmitted to others. We figured out what to do when a number of staff got sick in one house, and how do we figure all of that out. We figured out how to let the state continue to license us without annoying us too much. And we were starting to say really hesitantly and only very quietly, hey, maybe we got this. Maybe it really is going to be okay. And then one day the phone rang. And on the other end was a guy I knew a little bit. He's a kind of consultant and helps organizations in the nonprofit world. He's done it for about 30, 40 years, so I've been in the nonprofit world for a long time, so our lives have intersected a little bit once in a while. And he said, hi, I've been working with Northeast residents for a while, and they want to know if you'd like to go on a journey with them. And finding the urge to hang up and change my phone number, I said, sounds interesting. What in the heck does that mean? And so we were invited, Northeast residents and Hammer, to get to know each other. And it's been remarkable, this journey, this adventure. I mean, the first thing we noticed almost right away is that our culture and our commitment to mission and our drive for what we do is really similar. We looked up our mission statements on each of our websites, and they're eerily similar to one another with a lot of the same language. I had the opportunity to meet with some of the leaders at NER over Zoom or one of them platforms. And afterwards, I was talking to Sue, and I said, you know what? They all felt like they could be Hammer employees. They felt like us. And I think it was Lynn over at NER who said, yeah, it's starting to feel like we were twins separated at birth. And yeah, we had our differences. We were in different places about certain things. And that's fine. Because none of that mattered, because for NER and for Hammer, it's all about the people. And we just do what we do. A lot of times people say, well, Hammer and NER, they're innovative and creative, and that's all probably true, but I think most importantly is we're stubborn. We figure it out. We just figure it out. But it's been a heck of a journey. Getting to know each other, falling in love with the people we support on the other sides, hearing the stories, laughing at the similar stories. It's been hard at times. We use language a little different at times. We've had different histories that have been somewhat hard to understand, as they always are. You know, I liken it to the first time that somebody that you know invites you to one of their family events. So think about it for a minute. Maybe it's a college friend who invited you home for Thanksgiving, or maybe it's a boyfriend or a girlfriend, right, who brought you home. And you don't get the family dynamic. You don't understand them. You think, like, what the heck's going on? Who is this person, and what are they talking about? And, you know, in families, so much of what we do is kind of shorthand. And so a new person come in and is like, what? What does that mean? What's that about? And so we've had those moments. We've had those, what? And that's okay. That's part of the process of learning about each other, learning our shorthand, learning our history, and even learning our quirks, because we both have them. But what an adventure. Mostly fun and exciting. What's around the next corner? Like all adventures, moments of sheer terror. But because we are so focused on the people we support, this coming together of two organizations has really been a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And as a person who started at Hammer, I can say to the NER folks, thank you. I know you didn't make that phone call personally, but someone who was working with you did. And you said, we want to get to know Hammer. And we are so, so grateful for that. I'm also going to break into my little text here, because I'm also very aware that, you know, we all come with a lot of history. And a big part of that history is here today. And so I'm going to embarrass her. I don't know her well enough to know if I can embarrass her. Is that okay, Corrine, if I embarrass you? You're used to it. So Corrine ran NER for 28 years. Corrine, would you stand up so we can recognize the great work you did for 28 years? Corrine is just one example of someone who really gave their life and their passion to the people that we support. I ran some numbers the other day. It's kind of fun sometimes. Some of you are numbers people. Maybe you'll like this. As a combined organization, we are now a $40 million organization. We have just around 600 employees. We should have about 650 or 675, but that's another story I'll get to in a minute. We have 8 ICF homes. Those are homes that operate under a different license than a traditional group home and can be larger. In our case, there's 6-person homes. We have 8 of those. We have 9 apartment programs. And we have 51 4-bed waiver group homes across the Twin Cities. We have 2 office buildings. Well, we actually have 3, right? Because we have 1 that's empty. Sort of, right? And we serve 365 people in our residential settings. 365 people, and over 1,200 people across the state in our care coordination and case management. That's remarkable. Starting from, on the Hammer side, a relatively small campus that served around 40 people, and a convent in White Bear Lake that served 9 people. We've come a long way. It's only taken us 150 years, but we've come a long way. I mentioned earlier the staffing situation, and we have to talk about that. It's the elephant in the room, right? And we've never really been shy about talking about any of our problems, right? We're family here. And families, if they're going to advance, need to talk about the elephants in the room, or they become more dysfunctional. 20 years ago, maybe even a little bit more, I went to a talk by a local economist. And he was famous because he used data and graphs in ways that are typical today, but 20 years ago weren't all that typical. And he gave a talk about the economy and trying to predict what was going to happen in the economy and how the economy was changing and what we could see happening around us and what we could expect and hopefully get ready for. And he spent a fair amount of time talking about workforce. It's the first time I'd ever heard anybody talk about workforce. But he talked about the birth rate, which was going down, and he talked about immigration, which is going down, and he talked about mobility, that people don't stay in the same place and work for the same company for 40 years anymore. He sort of missed that one. It's much more mobile than he ever imagined. But anyway, mobility was and he came to this conclusion. He had all the charts and graphs, and he was running these bars across the graphs, and he said, right out here, these lines cross. and we no longer have enough workers in the workforce. And we all, it's a small auditorium, but we all gasped. And then we looked at his chart again, and it said 20 years out, and we went, oh, that's going to be horrible. Who wants to go to lunch? But he was exactly right. This workforce shortage that we experience has been coming for a long time. What he didn't see was a pandemic that made it worse. What he didn't see was the rapid growth of technology that allowed what's sometimes called the gig economy, right? That more and more people would essentially work for themselves. He didn't see early retirement because of the rapid growth of the stock market and the value of homes leading to early retirement. And all of those things have kind of come together and impacted almost every industry in the country. Now, what's the difference for us? We can't automate. That's what most places are doing, right? McDonald's is now experimenting in some of their stores with a big, huge tablet screen that you come up to and order on. And then you go around the corner and pick up your food. Never seen another human being. We can't do that. So things like healthcare and long-term care and services for people with disability that depend on face-to-face contact, that depend on being there to provide the right support at the right moment, have suffered the hardest. And it hasn't helped that they've also been among the lowest paid industries in our society. So we've seen this coming. We just never saw it coming this fast or this severe. And we've had workforce shortages before, but they've been episodic. This doesn't feel episodic. This feels like a glacial shift in the world as we know it. So what have we been doing? Well, we've been doing a ton of things for a lot of years. But when I got to Hammer, the word recruiting meant putting an ad. We'd moved from putting the ad in a physical paper to putting an ad in an online paper or online sites and waiting for the phone to ring. That was recruiting. Occasionally going to a job fair, which we always said we didn't really get anybody, but we still went to them. Now, between Hammer and NER, we have 3 full-time people who do recruiting and onboarding, the interviewing and the early onboarding of new employees. We've automated as much as we can in the application process and all of the background checks and all of the things that we have to do before we can hire someone in this particular field. All of that is as automated as possible. We've moved orientation to a mostly online experience. We don't love that, by the way, but it works. We've trimmed orientation down a lot, which we don't love, but it works, and it's part of the reality. We've established hiring bonuses and referral bonuses. We've raised pay 3 times in the last 18 months, and I suspect before the next 6 months are out, we're going to do it again. We needed to do that, don't get me wrong. That's not just a pandemic thing, it's just happened faster. We've created a rather large retention fund, which is about recognizing people and thanking them in concrete and individual ways, and asking them to stick with us. We've done something that we wanted to do for a long time and just figured out how to do it, and that is for DSPs, after they've been with us 3 years, they get a permanent pay increase, and after, again, 6 years, they get another permanent pay increase, recognizing years of service. It used to be in our field, whether you'd worked for us for a month or 15 years as a DSP, you got paid the same. That doesn't make any sense, but it's what the system doesn't recognize, years of service. We figured out a way to do that. But it's not just money. Money's a big piece of it. We've done other things as well. Seeing the workforce shortage and a lot of other changes in our society, a few years ago, we launched what we call our Second Century Initiative, which is about rethinking about how we deploy staff and how we use our resources across our organization. That's been slower because of the pandemic than we originally had set out to do, but we're still doing it and still working on it. You know, in the past, we tended to see each location as kind of a bit of a separate island, right? And we can't do that anymore. And so we're building networks of houses that are close to each other or support people who have similar needs with each other. And how can we share resources across, maybe not the whole organization, but at least a piece of the organization, building those networks deeper within the organization. And we've been working really hard at deepening connections. That's a big part of who we are anyway, but even in a more intentional way, between and with staff, inviting office staff to do things that will help the homes, new connections with volunteers, inviting them to cook meals so that direct care staff can do direct care rather than cooking and cleaning. We've invited families into a deepened partnership with us. Some people don't have the family network, and that's fine. We figure that out. But inviting those family connections to be really present in the person's life and to participate in some of the day-to-day work that we do. The same with friends and volunteers. A number of years ago, we started, which we heard about in our wards, our direct service volunteer program, which is really about using volunteers in that one-on-one way. We've also, over the last decade, invested heavily in technology, so that whatever we can automate, whatever we can do with technology to try to speed up all of the incredible documentation and record keeping and all of the things that we have to do in this field, we've automated and made electronic all of that we can, so again, direct care workers can spend more of their hours in direct care and less hours in paperwork. And we're not done. We continue to wrestle with this every day. We struggle. We swear a little bit. We cry sometimes. But we figure it out. But maybe what's the most important thing I can say to you is we will not be victims of what is happening in our world. We're going to figure this out. We may not love everything we have to do. You may not love everything we have to do. But we're going to ensure that people are safe and secure and have the best life possible. And it's going to be bumpy for a little bit longer. It's just going to be bumpy, and I'm sorry about that. But it's the reality of the world we live in, and we're going to figure it out together. We're not going to sit back and say we wish it was like it was, because it isn't. We'll have those moments. We all do in life. But mostly we're going to tackle what we can tackle, and we're going to move things forward. Part of our time together is also to share with you a little bit about where we are financially as both organizations and overall. And, you know, the really short version, if you don't like numbers and you just want to take away the one-sentence approach, is we're both doing fine. But let me explain a little bit about what that means. If you saw the annual report, it's there. Some of you maybe got it in the mail or saw it on our website. If you looked at the annual report, there's a brief financial report in there. It's pretty brief, pretty rolled up, as they say in the finance world. And you can certainly look at that. And if you want more detail, There's nothing, private about our finances. We're happy to share any of that with you as we go through. The one thing that might be really noticeable is when you look at the Hammer finances, because legally we're still two separate corporations. So legally we have to report our finances separately, even though we're much more intertwined than that, but we have to report our finances separately. So if you look at the Hammer finances, you see a rather large excessive revenue at the end of 21, about $2.5 million. And you may be thinking, well, why the hell didn't you spend that? Well, let me tell you where it came from. It's a really odd situation. So in the midst of all of this pandemic stuff and all of this figuring out guidelines and changing things, at the end of 2020, the Department of Human Services said to all of us, families and providers alike, remember that Waiver Reimagine thing that we've been talking about? Well, we're going ahead with that. We're like, really? Okay, here we go. Waiver Reimagine is an effort by the state to redo the waiver system, which is how most people we support pay for the services that they receive. And the waiver dollars, if you will, are the biggest source of revenue for both of our organizations by far. So the waiver system is really super important to us. And every couple of years they redo a significant portion of the waiver system. And what happens is it goofs up our apartment model. And that's because our apartment model is something we created that's a hybrid that doesn't fit into the basic model. So basically, it's more complicated than this. The waiver model envisions that people will live one of two ways. Either in a group home setting, 4 people, 24-hour support, or will live in their own home, whether that's an apartment or a house, and receive support from staff as needed. 2 hours a day, 10 hours a week, 4 hours a day, whatever it is. That's basically what the system envisions, are those two basic models with a few iterations around it, but those two basic models. Either a group home or a home of your own. The Hammer apartment model, we started fooling with apartments 30 plus years ago. About 20, 25 years ago, we kind of codified this model and grew it. This model is a hybrid because people live in their own apartment, but Hammer rents the apartment, and we have staff there 24 hours a day in the building. So it's a hybrid. For some people, it's a transition to a home of their own, but for many, it's not. The home of their own model doesn't work, either because they just need more support or for other reasons it just doesn't work. And maybe a group home doesn't work. They don't need that intensive of support. So something in between. So we created this model, and we're by far the largest provider in the state who does this type of model. So because it doesn't fit the system, every time they fool with the system, it goofs up how we get paid, the rates, and how we can use the waivers within the apartments. The vast majority of the time, it goofs it up in a way that we lose revenue and have to fight to get back to some compromise with the state, an exception, they call it, to the system to allow our apartments to continue to operate. This time, when they goofed with the system, the heavens opened up and the angels sang, and they gave us more money, temporarily. So that surplus was created by a very unusual situation, which they told us from the beginning would last for 2 years, last year and this year. And we've been deep and hard, Sue particularly, in negotiations with them about what it's going to look like at the beginning of next year. And it's really clear that this abundance of revenue that's coming to us is going to stop very quickly. So because of that, it's not really money that we can use structurally in the budget, right? Because it's not going to exist in the future. So we had this excess revenue. What are we doing with it? Well, we're doing a few things. First of all, namely, we're paying down debt, because that does make a structural difference in our budget going forward. Because now we don't have to pay the monthly debt, and that money can be used for something else. So in the last 3 or 4 months, we've paid down $1.5 million in debt, with that money that you see on that. And that sets us up for the future. We also set up that retention fund, which I talked about, which is a rather large fund. And we're keeping a little bit of it aside just in case, because the state has done this to us before, the fix doesn't get us back to even, but puts us negative again, which has happened more than once. So that's where all that came from. As part of this, our financial situation is strong. That's because we have a great team at both organizations, long-term folks who are really committed to this work. I hope I don't offend finance people who are in the room, but finance is, it's kind of the light in my refrigerator. I don't really notice it until it burns out. So, as long as things are going okay, we don't, finance is doing their job. But what we don't realize behind the scenes is the massive amount of work and the unbelievable complication that our finances are in this field. And with a really small team of dedicated people, they do incredible work. We got lots of different kind of COVID funds. You heard all about that, right? They were dumping money left and right. And everybody says, oh, the government's giving out free money. Huh. Talk to Kristen and Lisa about how free that money was, right? An enormous amount of work, an enormous amount of extra work on weekends and evenings to make all of that happen and to keep us going. So we talk a lot about DSPs, and we should. We talk a lot about other people who do amazing work, but we don't talk enough about our finance people who keep us together. And the heads of both of our finance are here. I don't think it's significant that they're sitting in opposite corners of the room. I think that's merely coincidence, but Kristen, come on, Kristen, stand up. Lisa, stand up. And they would be quick to, both of them, to deflect to their team, and maybe rightly so, but we all know that it is the lead of a team that sets the pace. And so we're grateful for all of your years of kind of keeping us going and keeping us mostly in the black as we continue to do this. And lastly, I've probably used way too much time. But lastly, I want to thank you all. And I want to assure you that we need you more than ever, whether you're a parent, a sibling, a guardian, an employee, a friend, a neighbor, a board member, a donor, a volunteer, a community member, whatever you are, and many of you wear many of those hats, we need you more than ever. We are so grateful because we do believe we're better together, and that doesn't just mean Hammer and NER coming together. It means that we're better together when we stand together in a circle around the people we support, ensuring them of quality lives and of love every day in their life. Thank you.
We haven't been together since 2019, so we want to take a little time to memorialize the people who have passed away, who we have taken care of for many, many years. We have loved every single person who we have taken care of and has passed away. I will just say that there are very few people in this group that passed away due to COVID. I think that's a good thing to be able to note, that they've lived very full and rich lives, and we've been very blessed to take care of them.
We celebrate them and honor their memory and are thankful for all the ways they touched our lives. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
For those of you that are following the program, I'm not Carol Hero. Just wanted to put it out there. My name is Bhuvana Nandakumar, and I'm here on behalf of Carol, who's the immediate past president of the Board of Directors of Hammer NER. I'm here to introduce the current board of Hammer on behalf of the board president, Blaine Stephens, who couldn't be here either. Will the current board members who are serving on the board of directors of Hammer NER, who are here, please stand up? So John has said this many times already, but it has been quite a past couple of years where we were meeting over Zoom, and now all of us have popped out of my computer screen, and here we are in person. It's quite something to see how, for example, how tall Bob Lockwood is. So it has been quite something. As a community member on the board, I also recognize that when you are brought into the Hammer family for whatever reason, as a volunteer, as a staff member, or as a board member, you are a part of the Hammer family forever. And with that, I would also like to recognize so many of the past board members who are here today. If you could all please stand up too, we are very grateful for your service on the board. Hammer and NER began this partnership in the beginning of 2021, as John mentioned. A partnership that largely began on screens through innumerable meetings on Zoom, many of them. We are now here in person. We have met a couple of times in person already, and we hope that this wonderful breakfast is the turning point for us as we go on to build an organization that is better together. On behalf of the Hammer NER board, I would like to thank all of you families for entrusting their loved ones to Hammer and NER's care. Thank you so much. The work that Hammer does and the passion that all the DSPs and every single employee at Hammer brings, as well as every single volunteer that Hammer brings, is focused on those people that we serve. And we hope that it will continue the same way for another 100 years to come. John just said it is the lead of the team that sets the pace. And before I sign off, I would also like to thank John for being that leader, for this organization and for leading us fearlessly through this difficult time. Thank you very much.
So I think Ellen and Sue are coming up.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me in the back? Great. I'm Ellen Timmerman-Bohr, and with all of you, we are responsible for our fundraising efforts here at Hammer and NER. Thank you all so much for your support, your personal connections, and your financial contributions. We really do count on all of you. Our homes are safe and lovely. Our employees have car repairs and education grants, and those we serve have spending money for medical care that's not covered by insurance and a cup of coffee with a friend because of your financial support. Thanks so much. I'm here to give some awards to those of you who have reached a level of giving that we like to acknowledge, our consecutive givers, and those of you who have planned gifts for Hammer in your estate plans. I'd like to ask Justin and Virgine to come back up, and they're gonna meet up here with Sue right by the table with our Ralph statues. And we will be coming to you. So when I call your name, Justin or Virgine and Sue will come to you and deliver your statue. And for those of you who aren't familiar with who Ralph is, this isn't in the script, but I know there's some new people here, so I'm going to tell our Ralph story. Ralph Rosenvold was one of Elvina Hammer's first students in her home in Minneapolis. And he moved out to the country in Wayzata with Elvina and a few others when Hammer became a residence in a big country home. And I think it was a gravel road, not 394 or Highway 12. Ralph lived at Hammer until 1995. And many people in this room, Sue, I look in her face and see a little emotion. Ralph was a great guy. He lived a full life. He took his grocery cart into Wayzata to do his shopping. He played the spoons and organ at his church. He was a wonderful man, and he is our story that we like to tell to families, friends, donors, people in the community, and we created these statues a number of years ago. There's big ones all over the West Metro, sort of like the Snoopies in St. Paul. And we like to use these as our awards for our employees, to people we serve, to our donors. So that's the Ralph story, and if you'd like to know more about it, I'm happy to share more. All right, on with the show. So Justin and Virgine, thank you so much for joining us. You heard a little bit about both of them. I want to acknowledge, John mentioned that Justin's family shared his story in our appeal, that is our spring appeal fundraising letter. But if you haven't seen the story, it's also on our website. There's a beautiful blog about the story. So you can go to hammer.org and find the blog. It's a lovely story. So thanks for sharing that, Justin, and Justin's mom and dad. I don't know where you are, but thank you. So I would like to start by honoring our consecutive givers. You are the donors who have given every year for 10 or more consecutive years. We would like to acknowledge you here today. Thank you so much. Your commitment year over year to the people we serve here at Hammer and NER is important. So the first name on that list, just fumbling with my papers here just a minute. The Ray Carlson Trust. So Heidi and Scott, or just Heidi, if you'd like to come up. Heidi's my good pal. We see Rod Stewart concerts on a regular basis. I already messed up. He was supposed to come to you. Anyway, thanks, Heidi. We see Rod Stewart together, and her mom and dad, who have passed, have been set up a trust and have given gifts to Hammer for many, many years. Thank you, Scott. Thanks, Heidi. We're seeing Rod Stewart on July 8th? July 8th. Yeah, rock and roll. Next, I'd like to honor our leader and my friend, John Estrem. John, thank you so much. Virginia, if you'd like to walk that over to John, that would be great. And Michael and Karen Lynn are also with us. If you want to just stand. Justin, would you like to take that statue back to Michael and Karen? Thank you so much for your years of support. If we could give them a round of applause. Our next group of donors that I'd like to acknowledge are members of our Elvina Hammer Heritage Society. You are the group of donors who have remembered Hammer in your will or estate, and the names that I will recognize today are those who are new to our society. Our future is sound when your plans include Hammer and NER. Thank you. All righty, got to get to my next list. David and Sue Aston, if you just please stand, and Virgine and Sue will come and bring you your Ralph statue. Thank you so much. Carol Gottschalk, I hear someone said you're going to have to stand on your chair, Carol. Just kidding. Carol's a longtime friend, auntie to Liz, who we serve, our Thursday volunteer with the group of fabulous ladies who love Liz Coltis and love Hammer and have supported us in so many ways. Thank you, Carol. Denny and Mary Newell. I know Denny's way in the back. Denny, if you please stand. And Virgine or Justin, you can figure that out. Thanks, Ginger. Denny Newell has been a volunteer at Hammer for 800 years. Hi, Mary. Haven't seen you in so long. This is so great. I said this morning, I am so joyful. Denny and Mary, thank you so much. Denny, like I said, has been a volunteer at Hammer, a good friend of Ken Sprudy, serving on our finance committee, and he has a great boat called the Myrna that will be in our live auction at Reach for Ralph, and he gives a mean tour on Lake Minnetonka in a early 1900s vintage boat, so it's awesome. Thank you, thank you. The Laverne Steffel Estate, Gladys McClendon, are you here? All right. Justin, if you wouldn't mind giving the statue to Gladys. Hammer received this gift from Vern Steffel, and Gladys was instrumental in that gift coming to us. She knew Hammer, she knew Sue, and when Vern wanted to know where he might leave his gift when he passed, Gladys was helpful in recommending Hammer, and so thank you, Gladys, for that friendship and relationship. It's important to us. And lastly, and certainly not least, Chris and Peggy Klug. And I'm going to leave the statue here because Chris is going to come up and say a few words. Chris and Peggy came to us as volunteers for Bruce at our Jordan home. And their son Chan then moved to Kentucky, and they're right back there. And Chris, if you'd like to come on up and share with the group a little bit about why Hammer is important to you and why you've become a part of the Elvina Hammer Heritage Society.
Good morning. I know you've all been sitting quite a while, and it's an absolutely beautiful day outside, so I'm not stupid. I'll be brief. I just wanted to share with you the decision that my wife and I made about including Hammer in our estate plan. And in the interest of full disclosure, we don't have an estate. I mean, we have a modest home and a modest nest egg, At least it was modest several weeks ago. It's taken a beating, but hopefully it'll come back soon. So my family's back here. Peg, she stood up. My daughter Tracy is there. Tracy's husband, my son-in-law Travis, and then Chan man as we call him. So after 3.5 years at Kentucky House, I can say that it makes me feel really good that when I go to pick up Chan for an overnight stay with us, he still bounces out of his chair and runs across the room, and he's ready to go. As an aging parent, it makes me equally happy that at the end of the visit, when it's time, and I tell him, Chan, time to go back to Kentucky House, he's almost as enthusiastic to go back home to Kentucky House. Now, Chan doesn't speak, but those of you that know him know he's a pretty easy guy to read, so Chan really likes living at Kentucky House. So Hammer provides, obviously, the house, the brick and mortar for Chan, but they also provide all the intangibles that make Chan smile and makes him want to go back. And I could go through that list, but I think most of you know what I'm talking about. The money that Hammer receives through fundraising really makes a lot of those intangibles possible. So the money over and above the normal governmental funding is really critical to keep Hammer and make Hammer what it is. And I just learned the other day, by the way, that the nurse, the full-time staff nurse for Hammer, is funded through giving dollars, not through governmental funding. So that's a pretty important role, and again, one supported by money that we all give to Hammer. So when Peg and I were talking about our will, it was easy enough to say, well, all we have to do is put Tracy's name down there, but what about Chan? You know, that's different. Is it going to be complicated? Is it going to be expensive? Well, it was neither of those things. In fact, it was as simple as right next to Tracy's name, instead of Chan's name, we just put Hammer Residences down. So inexpensive, easy. It was really a very simple thing to do, and we're very glad we did it. So of course, we did it for Chan, but in the end, we also did it for ourselves, because we both feel really good about, with our estate plan, we'll be supporting Chan, who will always be a child. We'll be supporting Kentucky House. We'll be supporting Hammer and Northeast residents as well. So it was a total no-brainer for us. And so I'd invite you to give it some thought. It just might be a no-brainer for some of you as well.
John said a lot that was.
He said a lot.
Oh, but I talk more than he does, so I can say that with full disclosure. No, John had a lot to say this morning that after 40 years at Hammer, for me, was very moving. I will say, I'm stealing this from our past CFO. Jim Lant used to say that this was the best day of work at Hammer, and I will say the same. Doing this work is a thrill, even as a fundraiser, so I'll just say that. We have an amazing team, and the work that we do is so important. We are only here to support your loved ones and those who we are serving across the metro area on both sides of the river. We are in this together. It's a thrill and a joy, and I'm humbled to be here to help do what we do every single day. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the Academy for, sorry. Just a small childhood fantasy coming back. You like me, you really like me. So before we go, yes, we're gonna go. Before we go, I'd like to give a couple of plugs for our upcoming events. Reach for Ralph, which we've done twice now online, is going back to in person this June. So mark your calendars for June 23rd. And here with a very special invitation are Angela and Nate from our development departments.
My name is Nate Reed, and I'm with Northeast Residents. I'm very excited to be here outside of Quincy Hall in the Northeast Arts District in Minneapolis, where on Thursday, June 23rd, Northeast Residents and Hammer will be holding Reach for Ralph, presented by Geritom Medical, to benefit people with developmental disabilities throughout the Twin Cities. Let's head inside and learn more about Reach for Ralph.
Hi, my name is Angela Bernhardt. I'm from the Development Department at Hammer Residence. We're looking forward to our first in-person Reach for Ralph event in 3 long years. I'm looking forward to the buffet dinner, the games, silent auction, the live auction, the fund a need, and more.
For our first year with Northeast Residents, I'm very excited to be a part of this. I think we're going to make a big impact for people with developmental disabilities throughout the Twin Cities.
Sponsorships are still available, auction items are needed, and tickets are on sale right now.
If you want to come down early, there's lots of parking. It's going to be great.
Yep, absolutely.
Reach for Ralph, presented by Geritom Medical, June 23rd. We hope you can join us here in beautiful Quincy Hall in the Northeast Minneapolis Art District.
And just to give my own plug for it, for those who live out here in the Wayzata area, Northeast Minneapolis is not very far away. And for those who live in the East Metro, you don't need a passport. We of course have other things going on. Otten Brothers, once again, is supporting Hammer through their Give and Grow, Give Back, which is running through the end of May, so you got a couple more weeks. There's a coupon in the brochure, and you can, by buying the plants you need for your yard, you can support us. What a deal. Also, the Family Day Picnic will be live and in person on Saturday, September 17th at the Hammer office building. Also, because we got to catch up for those lost breakfasts. My intake of bacon has gone way down. So we're actually going to do this again in the fall. Yay! On Saturday, October 8th at what's called the North Metro Event Center, which is just off 694 Shoreview, kind of Shoreview, Vadnais Heights area there, but Shoreview, I think technically just north of 694. Easy to get to. Saturday morning, no traffic. Come on over, join us. It won't be as beautiful a day as this, so you won't be giving up anything. But plan to come on over on Saturday, October 8th, and we'll do some more updates and have a little breakfast and continue to rock and roll. And on the NER side, the annual luau is on Tuesday, July 19th, a fun event at Richard Walton Park in Oakdale. For those on the west side, Hammer, same thing. You don't need a passport to go to Oakdale. So come on over and join us for an evening of fun in the park and food and games and all sorts of stuff. It'll be my first one, so I'm looking forward to it. So always check out our website, our blog that is on the Get Involved tab. You can follow us on Facebook. If you aren't getting our newsletters, which come by email now, please write your name and email on the sheet there, and we'll make sure to add you to that. Fun newsletters that come out. I want to thank everybody who made this day possible. How many of you have tea times coming up in the next 2 hours? All right, yeah, see, I knew. But a big thank you to giving us your morning, to being with us, to sharing with us. A lot of people made this possible, and I'm grateful to all of you. I'm not going to list, we've done enough names. Thank you to Justin and Virgine for really helping us out this morning. There is a table about Hammer travel out in the hall, and there's an advocacy table as well if you want to talk to Mary and learn more. See you at our upcoming events. Have a great day. Enjoy. Anybody who has nothing to do, my yard needs to be raked. Thank you.